Today, we're diving into something absolutely fascinating, a place where ancient spiritual wisdom and cutting-edge brain science literally collide. We're going to explore how a practice that's thousands of years old isn't just a matter of faith, but an actual powerful tool for physically rewiring your mind.
So let me just start with this one big question, because it really sets the stage for everything. What if the instructions we find in ancient scriptures weren't just nice metaphors for self-improvement? What if they were, in fact, a user's manual for changing the physical structure of your own brain? Well, let's find out.
Okay, to really get this, we've got to start with the science. For centuries, we pretty much thought that once you became an adult, your brain was fixed. It was hardwired, and that was that. But a complete revolution in neuroscience has just blown that idea out of the water, showing us that the brain is incredibly dynamic and adaptable. And the core idea behind this revolution has a name: neuroplasticity. It's this simple but honestly profound concept that your brain is never static. Every single thought you have, every skill you practice, every single experience, it's all physically reshaping your neural landscape. You are, in a very real sense, the architect of your own brain. This little phrase right here, coined way back in 1949 by psychologist Donald Hebb, it just nails it. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Think about it. When you repeat a thought or an action, the brain cells involved all light up in sync. And the more they do that together, the stronger their connection becomes. It's like carving a path in a forest. This is literally how habits, both good and bad, get formed at a cellular level.
And you might be wondering, how fast can this happen? Well, check out this number, 90 seconds. That's it. Research from Dr. Neil Nedley found that it only takes a minute and a half for your brain's frontal lobe, the part that does all the heavy lifting with critical thinking, to start powering down when you're just passively watching entertainment. It just goes to show how quickly our environment can shift our brain state. All right, let's switch gears for a second. We're going to move from the modern science lab to ancient texts, because thousands of years before we had fancy MRIs to see the brain in action, Scripture was already laying out a practice designed to do this exact thing, to change the mind. This verse from the book of Romans is, well, it's a game changer. It's not just a friendly suggestion to think more positively. No, it's a command for a total transformation. The Greek word here is metamorpho. It's where we get our word metamorphosis. It's talking about a fundamental change, like a caterpillar into a butterfly. And where does it all start? With the renewing of your mind. So how are you supposed to do that? Well, the biblical idea of meditation, or Haga, is probably nothing like what you picture. It's not about emptying your mind and finding some inner void. It's the exact opposite. It's an active, loud process. The Hebrew word is actually used to describe a lion growling over its prey or a dove murmuring. It's this idea of relentlessly engaging with a text, muttering it, speaking it out loud, turning it over and over in your mind.
And this contrast is so important to understand. Where a lot of Eastern meditation practices are about emptying the mind, Haga is all about filling it with very specific content from Scripture. It's active, not passive. The goal isn't just to feel different for a moment, it's to be transformed as a person. And neurologically, these two approaches could not be more different.
And this is where it all clicks. This is where our two paths, modern brain science and ancient scripture, just spectacularly converge. It's that aha moment where you realize they aren't just running parallel to each other, they're actually describing the very same process, just from two totally different angles. I mean, it's almost breathtakingly simple when you see it. Hibb's law says, hey, repeated thoughts build physical pathways in your brain, and the ancient practice of Haga is literally a system of focused, vocal, repeated thought. It's a perfect real-world application of the neuroscientific principle. Neurons that fire together, wire together, meets the command to meditate on it day and night. It's the same thing. And look at how direct this mapping is. It's incredible. When Romans says renew your mind, that's the language of faith for what science calls neuroplasticity, which we can see as frontal lobe activation. When 2 Corinthians talks about taking thoughts captive, that's the exact psychological act of identifying and challenging a thought. And when Philippians says dwell on these things, it's giving a precise instruction for cognitive replacement, intentionally choosing what you feed your brain. And the results of this kind of focused, repetitive mental work, they're real, they're measurable, and they are profound. Studies on people who do this long-term show actual physical changes in the brain's hardware. We're talking a thicker prefrontal cortex, which means better decision-making, a less reactive amygdala, that's the brain's fear center, which means less stress. You get better emotional regulation, stronger attention. You are literally building a better brain.
So, we've covered the what and the why, but now let's get super practical. How does this change actually happen? Well, it turns out Scripture doesn't just tell us to change, it gives us a clear step-by-step blueprint for the whole renovation project.
The Apostle Paul, writing to the Ephesians, lays out this brilliant three-stage process. First, you have to put off the old patterns. You have to consciously see them and reject them, those negative habits of thought and behavior. Second, you are renewed in your mind. This is the core engine of change, that active process of filling your mind with truth. And finally, you put on the new self. You start actively practicing new behaviors and new ways of thinking.
And this part is just stunning to me. This 2,000-year-old spiritual framework is a perfect one-to-one parallel with the core process of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, one of the most effective evidence-based psychotherapies we have today. Both systems say the same thing. First, you identify and stop the negative pattern. Then, you replace it with what's true. And finally, you practice that new way of thinking and acting until it becomes second nature. It's the same blueprint.
So what's the ultimate goal of all this rewiring? Is it just about being a bit less anxious, a bit more focused? As great as those things are, the Bible points to a much, much deeper purpose that's driving this entire process.
The ultimate target of this whole transformation is restoring something called the Imago Dei, which is Latin for the image of God. This is this huge foundational idea that human beings were created from the very beginning to reflect God's character, His love, His goodness, His presence to the world. And while that image has been fractured, this whole process of renewing the mind is about repairing it piece by piece.
This verse just captures it so perfectly. It's a continuous process. We are being transformed, moving from one degree of glory to another. See, the goal isn't just to become a better version of yourself. The goal is to be transformed into the image of Christ, who is the perfect representation of that original image of God.
So let's bring it all home with this final thought. What we call character, our tendencies, our virtues, our moral compass, it's not some vague, abstract idea. From a neuroscience perspective, your character is the physical structure of your brain. It's the sum total of all the neural pathways you have either built up or let wither away day after day through every single thought you've chosen to think.
So we end where we began, with a question, but this time for you. If every thought you think is like a hammer and chisel, shaping the very architecture of your brain, and in the end your character, what kind of mind are you building? Right now, today. The tools, as it turns out, have been right there for thousands of years. The choice of what to build, well, that's up to us.